Hi, witches.
Hi, witches.
Welcome to Palmistry Week 1. We'll get started in just a moment. So anyway, it's 7:33 and we have 29 people here. So, and we have a ton to cover, and this is so much. So here's my level of knowledge on palmistry. And I've read like page 1, y'all. So this is mostly going to be this is going to be a lot of Jamie talking and us all learning, and hopefully I'll be able to ask some questions that other people will have. There is not a Google Doc for this one. We did not make one, because this is a very big topic. It's very hard to get it into just 2 hours.
It would be like writing a cheat sheet for tarot, where tarot is so expansive.
Or astrology.
Or astrology.
Or numerology. Those really big.
Yeah, those are bigger topics.
Those big topics where you just, it's really hard to condense it. So have your notes ready.
Or you can rewatch it later. And
yeah, you can always come back later. Yeah. But Jamie did organize how we're going to approach palmistry. So without further ado, take it away.
Okay, so the way that I did structure this, just so you guys know what you can expect tonight and next Monday. Tonight, we're going to be going over the palm itself, the fingers, the mounds that are on it, our nails, our thumbs that play a very important role in when you meet people socially. And then next week, we are going to do the in-depth lines. There are 7 major lines. I will not cover all 7, but I will cover at least 4. And if you guys have questions afterwards, you can ask me, just so that we can keep the meetup at a reasonable time. So tonight is fingers, palms, how we go about first learning palmistry.
So I want to interject here if I could, please, because Jamie's been reading palms since she was about 17.
18.
Oh my gosh. Okay. 17 or 18 years old.
Year of life.
Yeah. So for a long time, since she graduated high school or right about high school. And there are certain questions that she always gets. So as a palm reader, if you're interested in reading palms, there are probably questions that people always want to know about. Yes. And what are those?
I mean, that's like, when do I die? Do I get married?
Do you really want to know when you die?
Yeah, people want to know. I don't know if you'll live better or worse or faster or slower, but people believe that it would be in their best interest to know when they die. And
I don't want to know.
Well, that's okay. I think that most of the time people want to know that so that they can say, they give themselves like a check mark in life. Okay, so by 30, I need to have 3 kids and be married and own a house or something. So they give themselves this idea of what they should have done by a certain age. And really, it's just every day, live like there isn't a tomorrow, like love your family like you won't have them the next day. If you live like that, you don't ever have to worry about your death date because you'll have things taken care of already. But we tend not to do that. We follow a template of life of like, you got to go to college and then have kids and get married.
So when will I die? Who will I marry?
How many kids? Who, but like, will I get married?
Will I get married?
How many kids will I have?
How many kids? Those are the big things.
Those are the big ones all the time.
Death and love.
Death and love.
Death and love, which is pretty much hopefully, love.
Yes,
hopefully all of love.
A lot of people want to know about their love line. And so that will be next week. I have a picture of my own palm. I'll be showing you guys what to look for and the symbols on it and things like that. But to really know about reading palms, it's essential to start with just learning the hands themselves. And so my homework for you, because I'm just going to start out with that, excuse me, is for the next week. I have a tickle.
She has a tickle.
I don't know why. For the next week, I want you to be looking at people's hands you come in contact with. Okay, because the first way to learn palmistry is to really know your own hand, like the best way that you can. So learn what your fingers are, what they look like, what your palm looks like. Is it square? Is it funky looking? And you won't know that until you see other people's hands. That's why that's really important. You have to see like 2 hands next to each other to see, okay, what are their differences and what do they?
We're mother and daughter, so
we're similar.
And we're the same rising and moons.
We have a lot of the same things.
Yeah, but maybe not a fair comparison, but we are going to examine Jamie's hand.
My hand. You'll see
a picture up close because this is weird.
Yeah, I don't want to be like sticking my hand in the camera the whole time. So, but to really learn it, palmistry is also energy work. When you touch people's hands, you are using your intuition to also pull things in. So for me, that's where it started. I didn't learn from a book. I was sort of gifted this after a really bad experience. I woke up with certain gifts. The easiest way to explain it without going into the whole story. And I just started telling people things that I felt come through. And I've repeated this before. I always felt like a liar. I was like, who the hell are you to say things like this to people? But that was my process. That's how it happened for me. Since then, I definitely do try to go into books and learn more, because I'm not just given all the knowledge, but I get feelings. And so that my intuitive reading level is different. And I can't teach people how to do that. You just have to trust yourself to say the things that come forward as they do, as ridiculous as they can sound sometimes. When I first started, I got a lot of images from people. Like I would be touching their hand and I would get a picture of a room or a set of stairs or something. And I would just relay that to them. Like, there's something going on with that.
And I think if nothing else, if somebody really new starting out, if you don't learn anything else, if you learn about the structure of hands, the shape of hands and things like that, and you learn what those things mean, because they do have meanings, like,
all of them.
Like a finger shaped like this is like, that's negativity or something, right? When the finger curves in, the crooked finger, when like this finger is super long, like you're, I don't know, a leader of the world. So there's all these things in the structure of the hand that you can memorize and learn and then extract from people that you meet.
Yes.
So the intuitiveness, it may not come later. It can come later for you, but you can definitely like analyze the hands and give somebody a reading. And if you think about what they really want to know about, when do I die? When am I going to get married?
Well,
or will I marry?
I will tell you the most useful thing for me is that when I've met people, bosses, coworkers, people in restaurants, maybe, in a judgment way, I look at their hands to understand what I'm dealing with. Is this person depressed? You can see that in the hands. Is this person have high anxiety? Do they not want to make decisions in life? Are they stagnant? Do they stay stuck? Are they aggressive? You can see all of that just in the structure of the hand before you even look at lines. So that's what we're going to start with. With your family members or your close friends, I want you to start grabbing people's hands, and I want you to understand the squishiness, because I don't know how else to explain that to you. But some hands are very flat and very hard, and other hands are squishy. And the spectrum of that, the more that you touch people's hands or you see people's hands, you'll understand that the squishier that you get, this is a person who's highly sensitive. They're receptive to other people's energies. They can also become easily mentally stressed out because they are taking on that influx of other energies. So they're usually a conduit of some kind. Yeah, I can hear.
I turned it off.
Okay. So understanding that on the squishiest of levels, this is a person who feels a lot. And these are often signs of anxiety. It can be depression. It can be painful past experiences that lead to.
What about empaths?
I said empaths. No, I already said empaths.
Oh, okay.
But the things that it can lead to is addictions. So this is people trying to cope now. So just from knowing that somebody's hand is squishy, you can see that they could be prone to addictions of some kind. And I don't mean like hardcore drugs, but I just mean, needing the occasional drink or using food for comfort or, shopping therapy, something like that, because they're trying to fix the emotion of themselves with an outside source. So squishy hands. Now, when you get the very flat, hard hands, these are people who are not going to understand you and what you're going through. They can only see through their lens. Seeing other people's sides is very hard. So they don't have as much empathy. That's like the best way to describe that. Flat hands, they're hard, no squishiness, lack of empathy.
What about when, have you guys ever shook someone's hand and they're like the limp fish kind of thing where you're like, what? I taught all my children how to shake hands with all three of them. I taught them how to shake hands and drive a stick. Was my contribution to their talk.
Among other things.
So people with what did I just say?
So the next is the way that the person's hand, if you shake it and touch it, is it cold? Is it like a wet noodle? Is it, what's the feeling here now? Because as you touch it, you're also going to sense things. It's uncomfortable to touch a wet lymph noodle hand. It's uncomfortable. And that's exactly what that is for that person. They're uncomfortable. They don't want confrontations. They don't really want to be the center of attention. They would like to be withdrawn into themselves. It's not that they're cold necessarily, like as a direct correlation, but it's that they want things. It's easier for things to be done for them rather than them step up and do things for themselves. So often people who have like the very soft, limp, kind of like all I think about is wet noodle. Those are people that you'll find will not speak up for themselves. So these can also become people that are victims of abuse because they get taken advantage of often. So that's something that when you see people in the service industry, they get walked on a lot. They'll have these thinner kind of like, I hate to say girly because that's not quite the right word, but delicate, that's a good word. Delicate hands that just seem
fragile
fragile.
and frail.
Okay.
I've met men like that like I can think of particularly an IT guy. Sorry if there's any IT guys on here, but this particular IT was sort of wimpy. And literally, like when I shook his hand, he was a new employee. I can't remember his name now, but I definitely remember being like, hi, welcome him to the company. And it was just, wow. It is almost like he needed help holding up his hand. And he was this super meek. So the way he came across to me at that particular moment was meek, weak.
You're using judgy words now.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. But it's a perception as we meet people on how they present themselves based on how we present ourselves. That's why I say touch as many people's hands as you can, and you'll start to understand the energy feeling when you do. Like, how do you feel when you touch that hand? There's a feeling there. Like Kat is explaining what her perception or the receiving energy of that person was just by touching their hand. The soft, delicate hand is also usually lack of confidence. That's why they don't make decisions. That's why they get, possibly used or stepped on. They don't advance quickly. They need to find somebody stronger to cling to. So these are people who become codependent. They don't make a life for themselves. They kind of need somebody stronger. They have that best friend that's always forcing them out of the house or getting them into new clothes or whatever it is. But they're going to be dependent on the people around them for their strength. There's low vitality in that. And when we get into lines, it'll be the same thing. You'll be able to combine the fact that if somebody has a very delicate hand and the lines on their hand are not very pronounced, meaning they're not deep. And when I show you my hand, you'll understand what that means. But that also means that their life force is actually just lower. They don't have the strong life force that some of us carry. So that's the holding and the touching of hands. That's the first thing to notice. The second that you can start to notice is the shapes of people's hands. Now, if you want to get into classical palmistry, there is 7 shapes. I'm not going to go through them all because it wouldn't make sense to you unless you could really see them. And I don't want to copyright pictures from a book. And I didn't go find 7 people with different hands. So as you meet people and you look at their hand shape, the things that you're comparing for hand shape is how big is their palm surface? And you can measure this. They actually have a way to measure it. But how big is their palm surface compared to how big their fingers are? So an evenly spaced hand, this is somebody who's going to have a more even demeanor, acceptable to more things, pliable, right? When you find people with shorter, I hate to say the word stumpy, but like stumpy fingers, stumpy hands, these are people that are very stubborn and stuck like a tree trunk. It's something that it cannot be moved. They're just elementary, stuck in that position, and they're not willing to bend, or they don't know how to learn it. So this is a good time to mention that, as souls, when we come back here, we are all evolved in different ways. As you read palms, you'll start to understand and see more people who have not lived as many lifetimes and people who have lived many, 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 many lifetimes. And you can sometimes get that feeling just from meeting people, like they're an old soul. You ever hear that about, kids and friends, like that's just an old soul, old before their time or wise before their time. The same thing is shown in the hand as you get to short, stumpy, hard, up into, the more firm, evenly spaced, like plushy, like a blanket, like feels good to shake their hand or whatever, the warmth of it. So that's shapes. Just pay attention to shapes and how things come out for you and the interactions that you have with people. So as you're watching people in their hands, Notice their demeanor, because this is all telltale signs for what their hands will show you later. So you can see it all, even with psychology, like first through that, their actions, and then looking at their hands, you can go, oh yeah, they've got a short, hard hand. So that's kind of expected from them. They don't have empathy and they're stuck in their ways.
So what does it mean when you like meet somebody and you just really love their hands? I mean, like, you're like, wow, you have beautiful. I mean, I know somebody is like, he has beautiful hands. Like, I don't know what it is about them, but they're like big and they're like this,
that looks like a
strong and like thick and like just
manly. Yeah.
Oh my God.
She's in a mid, y'all. X's, not manly hands.
Does it, I mean, are people attracted to certain types of hands, or is that just a reflection of their personality and their energy that we're attracted to?
It's probably all of the above. Like, there's going to be signs that tell you that there's something attractive about this person that makes you lean into them more. Like, that's just one more thing. You're like, they're smart, they're sexy, and they have great hands.
Oh my God, I love your hands. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Next, she's bringing up, this is turning sexual, and now we are going to go to the sex part, which is totally fine. Next,
okay, it's Aries, Mars and Aries, all right, which is sex and
you're wearing red, all passionate and flourishing with.
Listen.
Okay. All right. We're going to turn to fingernails now, you guys. This is a really important one because, again, you can see it right off the bat. It's really hard to hide their fingernails, which
I have the ugliest. I think they're ugly. Ugliest fingernails.
Okay. I'll throw you a pity party later I have great fingernails, so I don't know what you're
talking about. My daughters have beautiful nails. I do not.
Jolene hates her hands.
I don't know what that is. But anyway, go ahead.
Fingernails.
So how do you feel about your nails, ladies, gentlemen?
Intro into sex 101 with the fingernails, okay? Fingernails will tell you about a person's level of confidence, which obviously leads to the bedroom as well. We'll go over the first thing that people notice the most. When you bite your fingernails way, way down. And I don't mean like you keep them short because that's clean. I mean, you bite them so far down, you've got nubs sticking out of skin. That, unfortunately, is a sign of severe self-confidence issues,
my brother.
Possible depression.
It was Rick, my brother. He bit his nails down too quick.
Yeah, very, very tough. People, I would say when you find somebody with fingernails like this, be the nicest person you can to them. They are really hard on themselves. I mean, they're so hard on themselves that they take off that personality part of themselves, okay? So this is somebody who is probably deprived from relationships that are close. They're alone and they feel it. They're very unhappy with themselves, but don't know how to change it. So until there is somebody who comes and helps them out of that rut, these people will continue this terrible habit. And even if these people do get into relationships, because the fingernails are about partners and sex and how you are in the bedroom, if they do get into relationships, they're going to need somebody who's strong enough to pull them into their own. So to really guide them and be like, you like reaffirm every day, like words of affirmation, use the 5 love languages, figure out what theirs is, and then speak it to them. So with fingernails, how do you know that somebody is good in bed? Everyone wants to know, right? Before you like even have to go far.
Well, yeah, of course.
If you're looking at fingers in this direction, the curvature of the fingernail bed. Okay, so is the finger very flat? That's somebody who's going to need to be told what to do, or they're only going to do what they want to do. If it's very curved, these are people who bend to their partner's needs, who are expressive in their own ways. So the more curvature that you can get, and when we get into what each finger is, you can find out like, do they want power in bed? Are they looking for being like really naughty? Is it something where they want to be creative and always changing things? Would they be in the sex business maybe? I don't know. I'm never going to ever go over that. But the other 3 I can definitely tell you about. So the curvature of the nail is going to be this person's willingness to be compatible in bed with somebody, no matter what. That's the best way. Because I can't say they're good in bed. I can just say that they're willing to be compatible. So they're going to listen. They're going to reflect what you're doing.
They're not going to be selfish.
They're not going to be selfish. Flat is going to be more like, I want what I want. This is what I need. you need to get yours before I get mine or something. I don't know how that works. I haven't been with a flat nail person, but I know
I've
what it
seen the
looks
flat
like.
nail people though. I
Well,
know what you're talking
And
about.
sometimes when people have the flat,
Warning, red flag, red flag.
I mean, maybe people just want to like be direct and like, this is, you know,
I guess
mechanical.
two flat nail people might work really well together.
Maybe, as long as they can both express what they need. But that is the how to tell like the bed compatibility, if that's what you need. Next will be the little white moons. We call these moons, the little white part of your cuticle thing. Depending on how big or small your moon is also an indicator of how compatible that person will be with other people. So it almost shows your sociability. It shows, are you willing to give and receive? Do you want to connect? So people who have the whites missing, they may like being really introverted and they're not looking for companionship. They don't want you to be that hovering friend or that person that's always needing them around. They don't want to be needed. So the whites, which are called the moons, pay attention to that as far as like, you need a friend that's always social, big moons are better. Okay.
So
Yes.
on mine, just in particular, so I have like a huge moon on my thumb,
Mm-hmm.
but my other nails don't have a big, like this is like a half a moon here. So what is, so they're different. They're not
Yeah.
the same on every nail.
Right.
So I guess that's my
Next
comment
is,
slash
yeah,
question.
we're gonna get into the fingers in about 10 minutes, but because you can look at each finger individually to understand also about that person. What if they only bit down their first fingernail? You know, what if that's the one that's like messed up or something? Or what if they have, like Kat said, a really big moon on one finger, but then no moons on the other ones? That's when you look at the individual finger and what that finger represents to find out what that person's quality is, how far they portray that quality. The last thing I was going to talk about that's a general thing that you can watch or see is called leaning fingers or crooked fingers. As we put our fingers together, oftentimes when I read people's palms, I'll have them just lay their hand gently down on a flat surface. And it tells me two things. Do they have any fingers that are leaning towards another finger? Because that means that these two are sort of codependent on each other. This being a power finger, this being the finger of service and restrictions. My power finger leans heavily on my being of service and also restrictions, which means that I don't like power for pleasure. I do it when it needs to be done. Like there's a restriction on me. I don't always like to be in control. I can handle it, I can do it, but that is not my goal in life. My goal in life is my artistic finger, which I'm very artsy. So if you see leaning fingers, that's the next thing to really look for. And I guess, yeah, I didn't want to have to put my hand in the thing, but you can sort of see the way my first finger is like trying to hug my middle finger. That's all the fingers, any finger could do that, could be leaning into another one. Here's something common you'll hear. Oh, that's because I broke my finger. Oh, that's because this happened, scars. You know what? That's all part of what makes up that person and changes the personality or gives them the offset for a behavior. So that's okay. Nobody needs to be defensive about it. It's just that it's something that happens and we can look at it and learn from it. And lastly, our fingers and our hands, they change. So I never used to have a super long first power finger. I went in the Navy. I learned how to lead people. I learned what it meant to be in command and be in charge of people. And all of a sudden my finger grew up. And I know that sounds crazy, but
Your finger grew up.
It grew up. It became an adult.
Well, that's true because the lines are always changing.
The lines
too.
are changing, right? So
that's next week. But the lines are always changing.
In palmistry, I'm going to go through like 8 things that are sort of, I don't want to say ground rules, but like guiding
principles.
I love that. Guiding principles for you guys. Okay. And I think I already said this one, but learn as much about your own hand before you really set out.
We had a question about that. Like 2 people, Wendy and I think someone else asked, can you read your own palm?
Oh God, yes. I read mine all the time. Yeah.
So it's a good way to learn then.
It is a good way to learn. The great thing about palmistry is that when you think you've got it, there's more to learn. Just like with tarot, just like with anything, you're never really done learning. There'll be things that surprise you. There'll be questions that you have that you need answered. So just keep learning about it. And for me, this is getting into lines, but you know, I knew my lifeline said, you're going to die early. So you better get your shit together or else your kid's going to be without a mom and not know what to do. So when my son was very young, I started prepping him for my death because I was like, damn, I'm not going to get with any, I'm not going to be with anybody. Like
And I refuse to accept that. I just want you to know, when she told me that, I was like, yeah, I'm not accepting that. My children are not going before me.
But I seriously changed my life, and definitely I got more bracelets on my wrist, which is something I'm going to mention soon. And my lifeline changed for that. So there is always a change possible. Reading palms is just like tarot. It doesn't have to predict your future. It just tells you what is going on right now and where you might be headed. It's used as a way to like check in with the universe. How am I doing? How are things going? What am I lined up for? Just like seeing your doctor.
What do I need to work on?
What I need to work on. I mean, if you know what you want, seeing it in your palm and it says something totally different, you're like, you need to start working on yourself than if you really do want true love, because maybe you don't honestly believe in it, you know, things like that can come up as you read palms.
Yeah, like I say, I want a relationship, but I got no moons on any of these fingers, like zero. I got a moon here.
Okay.
It's really funny.
So it was know your own hand, look at other people's hands to practice on them, or at least observe so that you can see all the different types of hands, because that's when you really start to go like, whoa, okay, there are so many kinds of hands.
What happens when you get fake nails? How does that affect?
I didn't, yes. So
how does that affect, you know, of course, your nails then are not your nails. So is there a way?
I forgot to mention that about fake nails. When people get fake nails put on, this is a hiding mechanism. There's something about themselves that they would like to change that they are not putting effort into. And so this is a mask. Fake nails are a mask for something that you're unhappy with, that now you do this instead, so that the attention is off of that. And it's subconscious. We don't know that we're doing it. You know, I know tons and tons of people who get fake nails, and it's not like I tell them there's things wrong with them by any means. I'm just like, you know, there's something about yourself that you know you're unhappy with that you aren't ready to work on. So we put fake nails on. Not a big deal.
And it's so funny because the people, there's a couple of people I know who like would keep their nails up, and they had no money. They were like broke ass, but they went and they kept those nails up because that was really important for them, for that, you know, aesthetic, to have those really beautiful hands. And they were beautiful. They looked really nice, but damn, you got no money and you're going to the salon and spending $65 on some fake nails.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, my dog's sick.
The puppy is having an episode. So if we think about what Kat's saying, that somebody would not have money and then go get fake nails, psychologically, what does that say? They want to be perceived like they have money or they're doing well. Maybe that's one of the things. I don't know. I think it's different for each person, but this again brings in like psychology with mysticism and just understanding the signs of people and what they're doing, like the habits and the things that are going on. It's what makes palmistry legitimate, whereas a lot of people don't do it. I don't think that it's a very, I think that people are mystified by it, but I don't know that anybody tries to practice it because it's scary. It's like reading tarot can be better because you didn't write the words down for it. But when you read somebody's palm, you're putting a lot of responsibility on yourself to give them credible information they're getting from a line that you hopefully remembered what it said in a book. So it feels a lot scarier, but it can be really helpful for people to have things pointed out to them. That's when they change. That's what anybody who wants to learn palmistry, your true goal is to give somebody a message that helps change their life for the better. No matter what it is that you say, it gets them to think about some aspect of themselves that maybe they hadn't before. And now they're able to say, oh, damn, okay, yeah, you know what? I do know that. And I should change that. I should work on that. That is something that I want. Just an idea. Most hands, as you guys, if you want to get into books, most hands do not have every line. That's probably where people get frustrated the most. That's okay. When a line is not present, it just means that that particular thing doesn't need to be focused on in this lifetime. Case in point, the line of fate, the line of fortune, and the line of health are often missing in people's hands because it's just not something they need to focus on in this lifetime. So knowing that that's okay, that you won't find every line on a hand. Okay, so memorizing hands is not the way that I would tell you to go, but more as you read people's palms and you talk to them about their life, you will remember those instances. And that's what will really help stick your memory and the line in that situation together as a learning mechanism rather than a book. So the more you practice, the better you will get. I already read the messages thing. Okay.
I was gonna just say something about, you mentioned that if the lines aren't there, it's just not in this lifetime.
Yeah.
But also over time, those lines can appear.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe not in this lifetime, maybe not just right now. So I just wanted to bring that up because we were talking about how your hands, your palms change over time.
Definitely.
So,
and that's why I say us as messengers, when we give people these messages and when we help them along on their journey, we're that click for them, that light bulb that goes off. In 10 more years, when they get another reading and they remember, they're like, oh, last time they were like, you're going to fail at love. You don't believe in it. You don't this. And that person's done the work for 10 years and they've reevaluated themselves in relationships and they've really decided what they wanted and they're firm about it. They set healthy boundaries, whatever. 10 years, they get another reading and this person's going like, you have your soulmate. You are, you have the greatest love of all now. You have the capability to do anything that you want. Your money line showed up, whatever it is. All those things can change as you change. All right, the next, this was a big question. Which hand do we read, right or left? This is personal preference. I will tell you, many books figure out a way to get you to remember which hand to read.
I thought they were mirrors.
No, they're not mirrors.
That's what I read.
Oh, see, okay.
I read they're mirrors. Is what I read in this book.
Well, your hands are never going to be the same. I feel like that's a strong statement. Never going to be the same. But they're not.
Never.
They're not meant to be the same, because if they were the same, then you couldn't figure out how you were supposed to grow. So when I first started reading palms, I always did left for women and right for men. As my practice evolved, I just always read the right hand for people because it seemed to be the one that more dominantly was true for people. And that was just through experience. So the way that I remember it, you guys can read any book and follow any plan you want to and devise your own system. But I remember that the left is a plan. So this is what we plan to happen. And I try to relate that because left is 4 letters and plan is 4 letters. I'm always looking at ways to remember stuff. And then the right hand is the one that we're living. I think about placing my hand over my heart and feeling my heartbeat. This is the alive hand. This is what you're actually going through and what you're doing. Am I right? No, it's just how I read it. So when I'm doing messages and I'm channeling whatever that's giving me the messages to give to you, they know what I'm going to read. So they know what's going to stick out for me. And that's what I do, because none of this internally comes from me, I don't think, besides the stuff that I know that I've remembered, So right or left, it's up to you. I told you how I do it. And then I went over the fluffy, hard, squishy hand, flat, all of that. So next up is bracelets, you guys. This gets into lines a little bit, but since it's not on your palm, I thought I'd go over it really quick for you. Bracelets are these little lines on your wrist, and it is okay to squish them down to really see how many you have. Each ring is 25 years of life. If you have a partial ring, think of it that is like 15 years, 12, 17, somewhere in there. But these rings are your rings of life. So as you meet people, see people, this is another way to see where they're at with their life, I've been called into a lot of people's lives who pass, and that's not fun. And I don't ever look at their hand and be like, oh, you're going to die soon. Maybe I don't want to be your friend. But it happens. And then you're there for a reason to help give them messages up until that point. So rings of life. That's your wrist lines. All right. Now this somewhat heavier stuff. Yeah, I will go over these fingers faster because I was hoping to stop at 8:15 so you guys could have questions. If you have questions, you can ask me. The fingers.
Do we want to show the picture?
Oh,
this point? Yes, is that a good idea?
We're going to screen share so that you guys can see my hand.
So we're going to see a close-up picture.
Yeah, my hand. You'll be able to hear me talk, but I'll have you look at my hand so that you can see, because I'm going to use the mouse to try to show you what the area looks like that I'm talking about.
All right, everybody now should be seeing Jamie's hand.
Hopefully.
Or a hand. You may not know it's Jamie's, but
It's my
it is
hand.
Jamie's. It's got a couple rings on it.
Yeah.
If you can't see it, let us know.
Well, actually, we can see Cindy's face. Cindy, can you shake your head? Yes, if you can see it. Okay, great.
All right.
All right. So you'll have to move that because I'm going to use the mouse.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Oh, shoot. Oops.
Still new to this. No, that's
Where do we
Zoom. Go to the
go?
go to this guy, the photo guy. There. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Okay. So your thumb, I know it's not technically a finger, but your thumb, this is the finger of will and friendship. This finger tells you about people's ability to be used. So how strong is their will to stop things from happening to them versus how do they exert their will on others? So it's friendships and relationships that the thumb usually is talking about. And I should have, when we unshare this picture or screen or whatever, I'm going to show you guys what a hammer thumb is. And when you see a hammer thumb, this is people who get used until they don't, because you can change it. My hammer thumb may not change, but I know that I set healthy boundaries now. It's something that you have to learn. So that's what your thumb represents: the will of you and the will that you place on others and your friendships. Down here, oops, oh no. This right here, this is probably the squishiest part of your hand if you have a squishy hand. This is the mount of Venus. And Venus, of course, is all about love, relationships, beauty. So the bigger, fluffier part of your hand that's going to be more love that you invite into your life through friendships and relationships. That's why these two are connected. This is the mount of Mars. So this shows your action. Think about this as your grip. Do you have a grip on things? Do you take action? Do you drive things home? So depending on how fluffy and what symbols are going to be in this, which we're going to go over symbols next week, but this is your Mars area, your action area of your hand. Your first finger, this is going to be your power finger, your authority finger. And then underneath of it, of course, is Jupiter, because Jupiter is the biggest planet. He's the Mac Daddy. So he controls what's happening in the universe because of his gravitational pull. So that's how you can remember that your first finger is your power finger. This is the finger of service and responsibility and restrictions. It is associated with the mound of Saturn. And if you guys can kind of see the way this mound with its little shininess right here is higher up, if you were able to see this in like 3D, when I get to Saturn, this dips down. This is a low point in my hand. So each mound can actually be raised or it can be lowered. And all that speaks to is, where does your energy go? My energy doesn't go towards restriction and responsibility. No. And for authority or power, I like to be in control of situations 100%. So between these two fingers, I'm more lean towards the authority or the power finger, keeping in control of my situations and surroundings. Next, this finger is your creative, artistic finger. This is the philosopher. This is anything self-expression. So you can see that after my dip down in Saturn, I've got all of this raised. So really the only thing I don't like is restriction. The only thing I don't put energy into is being too much of service or being restricted. So with your creative finger, you'll often see that people who have a creative finger that's higher than their power finger, that's their job. So you can start to really understand what people are good at or do. Because my power finger is taller than my creative finger, this is more my wheelhouse than this. And right now in my life, that's true. I'm building a business. I'm, coaching people. I do things that's more of I wanted to say they're authoritarian, but I don't think that's the right one. Authoritarian, yeah, not authoritative. Yeah, that's the right one. That's my role, is to help lead and direct people and give them information. The power finger is not always like a bad power position. This just means, are you comfortable being in charge of people and do you do it well? So artistic finger, underneath here is the sun. So this is also like fulfillment. Are you happy? If this is plump, you're happy, you've got energy flowing there, everything's good. If this is sunken down, that might be someplace where you're not happy, where you're lacking fulfillment. Then lastly, this is the business finger. That's what I call it for short. I know that people call it other things, but this really will tell you about, do you need to be alone or with other people when you're working? And if your pinky drops below this second, or technically that's the first knuckle, you are meant to be in business or work with people. If you have a pinky finger that's higher, that's up here, you can be in business alone and you can work alone and you're comfortable with that. So it's a good indicator. Obviously, this would be ruled by Mercury. So we've got communication, your mental skills. So this shows you with that short pinky, I like being with people. I like to connect. I don't want to be totally alone. I enjoy my alone time as an introvert, but really I love to connect with people. So that's your fingers and the mounds that are associated with them. The last mound that I'll tell you about, and we'll get more into this next week as well, but this is the mound of the moon or Luna, depending on what you like to call her. But this area right here talks about your travel, your gypsiness almost, you know, like anything, lines and symbols here will tell you, do you move a lot? Do you travel? Do you want to move a lot? That's all going to be right in this section on that mound. And I think with that, it's 8:14 and I did awesome. And we're going to end with that and open up the floor for questions. I know this is a lot of information and I'm so ready to try to help everybody understand where I may have left gaps open. So I'm going to take a break and a drink and I'll let you raise your hands if you have a question. This part of the meeting will not be online. Of course, Kat will cut this out. So we'll just say, do you want to say a good night or just?
I just think this is so fascinating and it makes me want to really explore my own palm and then go back and I know we don't have a lesson plan for tonight because this is very in-depth, but if you go back later and listen to the recording and all of the areas that Jamie talked about in here, like for myself, I'm like, okay, so you know, I got the indent on
Creative.
I have the indent.
Man.
I have the indent there. And then I've got, and I know I have a soft.
And fulfillment, yeah.
I know, and I know I have like a soft, and I've also got the where this is shorter. So I like to work with people, even though I also like really enjoy my alone time. In fact, I was thinking about this week, thinking about it this weekend, how I really want to be in a relationship, but then on the other side of that, it's like, I really like my time by myself. I don't know how I'm going to balance that out, but anyway, this is really the time for you guys to ask questions. I'm just kind of like throwing some things out there that I've been thinking about as Jamie's been talking. So I do have one question. Okay. Do fingernails have, you know, other than the shapes of them? Because I have like god awful fingernails, great hair, but awful fingernails.
Define what you mean when you think you have awful fingernails. Because that's not awful.
They won't grow.
But that's not awful.
They won't grow pretty and long like I see other women like yours.
I garden a lot.
She has beautiful, like shapely nails and they grow really nice. And mine, they break off. So is that an indication of anything, or is it just like everything went to my hair?
Kat brings up a good, length of nail. Okay, I like this. Kat brings up a good point about the shape that your nails are in, which I mean, like, are they cared for? Are they chipped? Are they?
Do they peel? Do they break and peel all the time because they're in water or whatever?
Yeah. You know? So this talks about self-care. So the nail that's attached to your body, which is the part that's still pink, that's all with other people in relationships. The part that extends past you is how well you're taking care of yourself in the world. Like this is your outward self more so. This is you going out into the world. How do you feel about yourself? What's happening? Are you having trouble with something?
I didn't want to hear that, y'all. I really did not.
You don't ask questions, which don't have the answer to. I will tell you guys that mine
also break and peel, Joellen. Yeah.
I grow really good nails. I do. I don't try, it just happens. But my thumbnails.
Both my daughters grow really good nails, and I don't.
But wait, my thumbnails, you guys, for the last probably 3 or 4 years, I cannot grow these things. I break them, chip them, peel them back by accident. I'm always messing up my thumbs. And you know what? I've had a really hard time with friendships in the last 3 or 4 years. So if I was reading my own palm and I saw, oh, look, all of her other fingers outwardly look great, but her thumbs are having trouble, I would immediately go to your social issues, your friendships. There could be a problem there because your thumbs are not able to keep in line with what the rest of your energy is doing. And that could be the same for any one of your fingers. If you've scarred them where you have a permanent damage there.
I did that.
Yeah.
I like rammed it. And this one, when it grows out, it's like split in the middle.
Yep.
And on my thumbs, only on my thumbs, I feel ridges, and I don't feel ridges on any other nails.
Yeah.
But the thumbs, I feel ridges. So does that mean anything?
I mean, ridges they do have to do with nutrients as well. So I can't speak as a doctor on that. But for when you read the fingernails, your ridges are not very prominent. I'm telling you what, that's why I say, look at other people's hands, because then you'll really start to appreciate how good your hands look. And you won't be so hard on yourself. Like, don't look at magazines or anything. Those are all super touched up, and those people wear gloves all the time, and it's not.
They
real.
never wash dishes or garden.
No. Yeah, we are in the dirt all the time. So no, it's really about the care that you take on them once something happens. So being able to clip them back, this is something I find interesting. If you've ever seen those people who have like super long nail here, but the other ones are short, uneven distribution of energy. It's like they don't want to let go of that one nail.
What about the guy that's got the super long, like gross pinky?
That's a coke nail, Mom. That's
that's so nasty.
No. Okay, listen, don't talk to him. Just avoid at all costs. Anybody you see with a coke nail. No.
Is that what that is? A coke? Oh God. Yeah, it's so creepy.
We're just gonna say, I love you, Mom. I didn't know you haven't seen enough movies to know coke nails. I'm sorry.
I didn't know.
So that's what the outward length of your nails is. As you care for yourself, when you go to break one, understand that the finger that you're breaking it on is where you need to slow down in your life. Like, that's my message for me. When I break a nail on a certain finger, it's like, slow down. You're moving too fast. You're forcing something. Pay attention. When we hurt our hands and our fingers, even our toes for that matter, that's the slow down feelers. These are like these are our antennae. Just kidding. But it's a good way to think about when the nail grows. That's something you're putting out into the universe. And when you snap that or break it, or you like do the bend back thing, which is horrible, ouch, slow down. Think about what's going on. It also is like, how mad do you get? I get pissed sometimes, like really angry, want to cuss and punch the wall. It hurts so bad. I'm mad.
She's
like,
her mother's daughter.
I have a little bit of that, passion, anger thing, but it's a slowdown. So,
all right. So
next week, lines. It will be deep.
It looks like we don't have any questions, which is great, which means you answered them all.
Yeah. Well, if you guys think of them, you can always post them onto the YouTube channel. We always look at the comments. You can I was going to say DM. I don't know if that's the right word. You can message us in the Meetup app. We also look at that. And then, of course, if you want to email us, it's 7greensisters@gmail.com. And we will see you all next week.
See you all next week.
Practice. Look at people's hands. Find out shit.
Lots of hands this week.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye, everybody.